Your CV is not your life. So first thing, you're not allowed to think for yourself. We are not allowed to explore and think and question. They say Panditya Vendra. We don't celebrate failure. So how can you innovate?
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to TV Roll 21, where we strive to be a force for good. Today, on the sit down, we have the enigmatic, the intelligent, and the intriguing Mr. Peter De Almeida. Mr. De Almeida, it's quite an honor to have you with us. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be with all of you this morning during this program.
Thank you for welcoming us into your humble abode.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, so we will be getting right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you came from, your beginnings?
Okay, so I was born into a family of 11 children in Kotehena. My father was 40 when he met my mother, who was 20, so big gap. And then together they produced 11 children. I was the youngest. And when I was 4, my father passed away. He was 64. So I was born when he was 60. So then I had my schooling at St. Benedict's College in Kotehena. I lived there for some years. Then we moved to Mutual and Mattakkuliya. So Colombo 15, 13, that's where I grew up. We were a lower middle class family because you see, when my father died suddenly of a heart attack, there were 11 children. One sister was married and she had gone. So 10 children, my mother 11, my grandmother 12, and my father had got 2 cousins to come and live with us because they had been orphaned. Their father had abandoned them. And so 15 people in the house, no income. My father had a very small pension. So as a result, my second and third sisters, eldest sister was married now, and my brother, my eldest brother, he was the fourth in the family, they had to chuck up their high education and go to work, to sustain the family. So we grew up with very little, but we never felt that we were in want, because most of my friends in Kotehena also came from a lower middle class family, so we didn't feel that we were lacking anything. So we had to make do with the limited resources, but we had great fun, because big family and fights and so Christmas and all that there. So we grew up in a very happy environment, And we also learned to share resources, because even when I went to work, now I was 4 when my father died, so when I went to work I was 19. 15 years later, I started work at the bank, at State Bank of India as a clerk. I used to bring my salary, we used to get salary in an envelope. Now you all can't imagine that, no? All accounts are credited these days. So they count envelope, notes and coins also. I got 467 rupees. I used to bring my salary and give it to my mother. Next day, bus fare and lunch and all I get from her. So it's pooled resources. Otherwise, we can't hold the family together. So very early, we learnt about sharing resources. So that was a good lesson. So broadly, that was my background. Kotehena, school. School was great fun. I was in the prefects. I was head prefect, and we organized lots of things in school. Organized a strike also.
Really?
Stoppage of class, yes. That is because of Peradeniya University in 1973. A Peradeniya University student was shot and killed by the police. First time police had killed someone in the university. They were protesting about something. This fellow was walking from the canteen to his hostel, and that time there was a food shortage. So sugar, we used to take sugar. You can't put sugar into the tea and put 3 teaspoons of sugar, like what you all had now. You have to put a little sugar into the hand and lick the sugar and drink the tea. So he had taken a packet of sugar. That was all in his pocket when they found him dead. So we thought, we are university students. We are going to university. Hopefully, I didn't go. So we thought, we must be concerned about the loss of life. So without just coming out and, behaving like thugs, we waited for a day when there was a stoppage of work by the trade unions. So we also boycotted classes. Very interesting experience that was. So first time, I think, at St. Benedict's College.
So a humble yet happy and promising start to your life.
For sure.
Can you tell us about what you do aside from your storied acting career, which amounts to basically a side gig when it comes to the grander picture of your life?
Well, yes, like you correctly said, I did a few things. I can't call it even a career. I did a few things, but they were all very good productions, fortunately. My very first was with a very top actor, singer, theatre person called Dhamma Jagoda. It was his life story, Mihi Kathage Daruwo. That was my very first. Then Lester James Peters' Gireya. Then Pathiraja's Kadulda. Then Kumbyo and a few other Vasanto Besekar, some short things. But that was, like you said, a side gig. But my substantive position was in banking for about 7 or 8 years. Then IT. Because my friend Ajit Iyer, he passed away. Brilliant guy. Childhood friends we were. Sad to lose him. He started a company called East West Information Systems. That was the first IBM PC distributor in Sri Lanka.
Right.
He started it. He was a top computer guy. He got me to come. I got a little disillusioned with the bank because I was in the trade union.
Right.
Yeah. So that's another big part of me. I was socially conscious from the time I was 15 because I met this gentleman called Bala Tampo, who was a famous trade unionist, a socialist, Marxist, humanist. We can talk a little about him later, about influences in my life if there is a question. So banking. And then, like I said, he wanted me to come. I got a little disillusioned with the bank union.
Right.
I chucked it up and joined it. Then my substantive career has been in IT. Right. Then for a short time, when I came from India, I did a job there, came back. I did it for about 2 or 3 years. Myself and 2 other friends, we had started a video production company to make TV commercials, documentaries and all. We were, I think, right up there. We were right up. We were, I think, about the top. Very good quality work we used to do. My friend Steve De La Silva, he directed the commercials. The other person was Rohan Ponnai. They came from theatre. So that was a brief interlude. So my life has been theatre, side gig, banking, trade union and social movements are a big part of my life that has been continuously. And then IT, technology. And then later I worked for a year with Sarvodaya. Right. It's a social organization. That didn't go too well and we can maybe talk about it later. Right now, I'm working part-time as the CEO, if you can think of a part-time CEO, for a very interesting company called Kehel Mala Productions. Ona Kehel Mala kiyala kiyanne. Right. It's Kehel Mala Productions. We have set this company to make movies, television series, YouTube series, and hopefully try and do some work of quality that will get picked up in the streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that. That's where we want to go. But the interesting thing is we are getting young people, pay them salaries to come and do creative work. Because today Sri Lanka youth, a young fellow tells a parent, you tell your parent, Arvind, Mama yana film hadanda. They'll think you're mad. So because they think there's no livelihood in that. So we want young people, pay them a salary and say, come and write scripts, tell stories. And our goal is to inspire and sustain audiences through creative storytelling. That's our purpose.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing now. So, I'm going all over the place.
So, how interesting, Mr. De Almeida, that you are essentially providing...
Just call me Peter.
All right then. Quite an interesting and colorful CV you have there, Peter. How interesting that you are giving a platform for younger people of our generation to let forth their creative juices. So how interesting indeed, because that is the key point of what we want to get to today.
Right.
So banking, ICT, Kehel Mala Productions, what influenced you to become so multifaceted and try out everything in life?
That's a good question. See, I never think about these things like that. But you see, you said CV. You said it's impressing CV. Now, I talk to a lot of young people about careers and even your listeners, school children. I never had a career. You see, when you have a career, you're fixed, no? Now, career is a noun and career is also a verb. Noun is, growing in a profession, sustaining a profession, building a future with a profession. That's all career. The verb career is to move quickly, rapidly, in an uncontrollable way, but in a specific direction. So the car careered off the road and struck the wall, right? But you're going in a direction, uncontrolled, but moving in a direction. So my daughter is the one who told me, Kanya, she's a writer. She's the one who drew my attention to this verb. So my life has been like that. I was not fixed. So I just went where my life took me. And I think it was David Henry Thoreau, who's an essayist and an intelligent, interesting man. He said, your CV is not your life. Rather, infuse life into your career. Your CV, your career is not your life. Infuse life into your career. That's what I'd like to share with young people like you. Don't be fixated.
Right.
So I just went along. But I was very interested in what I was doing. Even though I was a bank clerk, I was interested in banking.
Right.
That's where my curiosity got the better of me. And we can talk a little about that. But to your question, so I just went along. And whatever skills I had, which was essentially a sense of curiosity, and I had a thing about solving problems. With those two, I thought those skills can be used in any, job or opportunity that comes my way. And I never thought of any of them as jobs. For me, they were an opportunity to go and do my thing. I never waited for I never had a boss.
Right.
I never had a manager. I mean, there would have been a manager technically, but I never waited for him to tell me what to do. I would try to infuse some life into whatever I did. I don't have a background in IT, Arvind. I didn't go to business school. But in these qualities, with that you can build an exciting future for yourself.
Would you say that sense of starting things yourself, being a beginner and being a go-getter was what propelled you to success, the success that you now enjoy today?
Yes, because I would take things on. Even when I was very small, I remember when in grade 1 or 2, I used to organize the games in school, during the interval. There was a famous film called Hatari. Long ago, your parents might know John Wayne and so this fellow. So we used to recreate that in school, in the interval. There's a jeep and there's a rhinoceros and all that. So I found myself directly. I would just take leadership, So in a sense, I would push myself to know a little more about whatever I do. If it's video production, I learned it. If it's IT, I learned it. If it is movie making, I will learn it. So, and drove myself, not thinking of, salary increments or anything like that, but rather, do what you're doing with interest.
And Peter, it seems like you, in any point in your life, made the best out of what you were given with.
Right.
In a few words, making do with your lot in life. Would you say that lesson was inculcated from an early age?
Yeah, but I be little careful about that word. That's my lot. That is a sense of, mage karume. Not in that sense. I didn't say, this is my lot in life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
you know the meaning
definitely.
of that
Yes.
phrase. But learn to live with the resources at our disposal. Ekahari.
Right.
That's correct. I mean, like I told you, we had very little. We made good with that.
It doesn't necessarily need to be seen in a negative light as society so often
exactly.
does.
So it depends on which way you use that phrase,
Definitely.
my lot in life. Some people say, that is my lot in life, there's nothing more I can do. No, I pushed. There was no boundaries for me. This is your place in society. No. I was irreverent. I never looked up to people like that. I would take anyone on. In that sense, yes. But to your other point, yes, we all have limited resources, so you manage with that. So you don't need a college degree, or by all means get a degree.
Yes.
For sure, if you can get a PhD, it's even good. But you don't need that. You don't have to have those means to be good at what you do.
Right.
Yeah. So in that sense, you're right. So I learned that early. Correct.
All right. So obviously, you're a very well-known person in Sri Lankan society, and I'm sure at large, across the world stage. And you are a multifaceted personality. You're artistic. At the same time, you're able to lead. all of these qualities, though, it seems to me they all lead from the same pinpointed quality that you seem to have innately. Was that quality innovation, curiosity, inquisitiveness?
Definitely, definitely. And also, just before curiosity, you see, the thing is, when my father died, now a lot of people have been criticizing. No, I'm not saying I was happy that my father died, but I hardly knew him. And I'm sure I was sad at that point. But in a way, my father, as I said, came from a very conservative Catholic family. He would have trained my mind to go in a particular direction, accept Catholic dogma. You know, I mean, I believe in, I have a lot of respect and for Christ and Christianity. But, you know, for example, if he said, you know, the world was created in 7 days. And if I question that, I say, all the planets and the galaxies, and all, he said, yes. I said, I'm sorry, I can't accept. He may well have slapped me and said, no, that's what the Bible says. You bloody well believe that. He may have, I don't know. He may not have. So, in a way, I started thinking for myself, Arvind. That's the first point. This thing about critical thinking, free thinking. Most of our children today, the parents decide for them. No, I don't know how much your parents decide for you, but they bloody tell you what to do, even the clothes you wear. Podi kalena hadanawa. So we are not allowed to explore and think and question. They say panditya vende. Man kiyeninda karappa, correct?
Yes.
So that's what's, and the teachers also in school, you know. So first thing, you're not allowed to think for yourself. Then innovation all comes later, no? So if you can think for yourself, which I had, nobody interfered with me. My family, we had a certain Catholic traditions,
right.
But I managed to work through that. So think freely, think for yourself, question. Now in Buddhism, the Kalama Sutra, they say don't accept anything because your adults have told you, and the Lord Buddha says, even if I tell you, see whether it's true for you. So free thinking, with that comes curiosity.
Right. Free thinking, curiosity,
That leads
inquisitiveness.
to innovation. And
Right. All right.
but there's one other aspect, problem solving and failing.
Right.
You can't innovate without failing. No? So that's another thing that's not taught in our school system.
So did failure teach you then?
Failure, yes. Now Sinhala word for failure, there's no word for failure. There's asamat. Samat tune naha. That means you have a chance to succeed next time. But take school, Arvind, you have to get top marks. Now, a child gets 96. What do the parents ask?
Where did the other 4 marks go?
I say, Tamasati, anit aturu lakunu hatara ganda bari unada. So, you know, can you imagine the child feels, I say, God, my parents accept me, I get 96 and I'm still not accepted. Some parents even do better. When you go to class, parent-teachers meeting, 96, they'll ask, Vena kaatari siyak hammuna. Then the teacher will say, oh, hatara passen udam. Then they say, moodya, but ganda bari unada. You know what I'm saying. So, failure in school, you know, we don't have that growth mindset. Now, for example, if in a class, a child has got 4 answers out of 10, they can say, okay, he got 4 right. Let's help him to find answers to the others. They'll say, ayyo, more there. Moota matchu gannan වැඩිය හොඳයි මේ නිකම් වෙන දෙයක් කරා නම් පන්ති පිටිපස්සේ ගිහලා කෑ ගන්නට ඉන්න බලන්න. You know. So we don't celebrate failure. So how can you innovate? So I never had that problem because my parents were not behind my back. Now
Right.
one year I got a whole lot of prizes. When I was in grade 8, prizes for grade 7. After the prize giving, I looked around, nobody has come from my family. Not one person. I felt a little sad coming home because I had to come in the rain, certificates inside my shirt.
Right.
Yeah. I had to run to the bus stand and come home. When I came home also, nobody took any notice. Yeah, Peter has come. And my mother said, no, when you got wet, no, go and have a bath. And that was the end. So I cried a little that night when I went to sleep. But you see, the thing is this. No pressure. If they all came, next year, I get 2 prizes. They say, well, they'll know if I don't get any prize.
Right.
You see, so there was a positive side to that by not coming and creating pressure on me unnecessarily. So yeah, that's a big problem with the education system, Arvind. This fail, you know. So you are too frightened to fail. You will never innovate or do anything. You won't take on. You won't take a challenge. You always be afraid of I'll screw up. You know.
It's quite interesting you say that because For me, I mean, I was born in 2004, so very much on the side of the new millennium. Growing up with my peers, I always had this sense of fear and living up to expectations.
Wow.
And I was blessed more than other people. I mean, it's obvious. You can see I'm allowed the freedom of getting the opportunity to do this.
And also, I met your father
Yes.
just now, and he said he didn't even want to come inside because he said, no, ළමයින්ට නිදහසේ වැඩ කරන්න දෙන්න ඕනේ. I was very happy that he said that. Continue. Go ahead.
Even so, there was that collective theory of having to pass.
Yes.
සමත් වෙන්න ඉබහගේ. නැත්තම් වැඩක් නැහැ.
Oh,
These things played a big part in our subconscious in shaping us and
Yes.
who we were
Yes.
as a people, as
Yes.
an age group.
yes.
Do you think that that has negated the sense of innovation and building and striving for something better in Sri Lanka?
Definitely, definitely. You see, education, our education system, correct? I mean, that's why now this quote is attributed to Aristotle, but he didn't. They say he didn't say it. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all.
Right.
Then Einstein said, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think.
Right.
Then my school, the founder of the Christian Brothers Order, that those are the brothers, the clergy, a type of clergy, who run the school. They come from they are called De La Salle brothers. Their founder is Saint De La Salle, Jean-Baptiste De La Salle from
Right.
France. 300 years ago, we found out recently. We never knew this when we were studying in school. Now I'm helping school with some others as a part of a team to develop a strategy for St. Benedict's College future.
Right.
Now, he had said, defined quality education. Einstein died in 1950s. 300 years ago, De La Salle had said, quality education means teaching minds and touching hearts.
Right.
So, training of the mind to think. Our education system is not geared to train the mind to think. It's there to කටපාඩම් කරලා විභාගේ pass කරන්න. Not to think, not to challenge, not to. Even recently, I had a discussion with our teachers. They are saying now the children will come back. මාස එකමාරයි තියෙන්නේ. We must push them and do the A-level. These
Right.
children are going to come back traumatized, man. Particularly the primary, and they are very worried about by the schools judged by the results. No, how many passes, how many A's. It doesn't matter in the process if the child is a mental wreck. They don't care. That is why one of the guiding principles of St. Benedict's now that we are thinking, the well-being of our students is at the heart of everything we do. And the role of teachers is to inspire, not instruct and punish. That also comes from the De La Salle.
Right.
300 years ago, he said that. At a time when, the priests and all believed in caning the students and whacking them, punishing. He said, no, teachers' role is to inspire,
Right.
not to instruct and punish. That's not what we get in our schools. Problem solve karan. Now you all are lucky now, 5 of you have come here. You all learn something from this, apart from your academic. It's exposure. So you are right, Arvind. The school system completely kills any type of innovation. That's why we are producing also leaders today. What?
Right. It's.
Did I digress?
No, not at all. I agree completely. It's quite interesting that you say that a lesson as universal as that, inspire, not instruct, that goes back thousands of years, has been lost in the current age of education. We'll be right back to discuss those topics on a sit down with Mr. Peter de Almeida. Right now, we'll be going into a short commercial break and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a sit down with Mr. Peter de Almeida on TV Roll 21, where we strive to be a force for good. Right. Peter, now where we last left off, we were talking about Sri Lanka's education system and how the lesson of inculcating curiosity has been lost on the Sri Lankan people in recent years. Now, this has been a slow, gradual process, to my knowledge.
Correct.
It hasn't happened overnight. So, what changed? Where did it careen into the gathering of facts and figures instead of inculcating values such as free thinking and
Well, I think actually this system of education comes from the British system.
right?
I think it comes from colonial times because the British wanted a machinery or resources, people resource to feed their industrial revolution.
Right.
So that's why they created this system that will then produce people with certain types of qualities that are needed to keep the engine of capitalism running, industry running.
Right.
So that's how this came about. Now, our system in Sri Lanka and all that was from knowledge that you gain by working with artisans, learned people. They would sit under a tree and tell you stories. They didn't give you an exam at the end of it. So it was constantly wisdom, knowledge was passed on. And no exams at the end of it. So then once it's passed on, you go and think for yourself about it.
Right.
You don't have to come and sit an exam. But you have to produce, for example, an artisan. You go to learn from an artisan, from a expert, and then you are his pupil. Hard work. You come every day but you are learning. You see how he crafts his trade. So it's a very different type of learning. Learning by doing, for example. We have lost that. What is the learning by doing that we have? Nothing.
Right.
Memorize, regurgitate within 45 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour. So I think it comes from some time ago. But if you consider human history, I mean, we go back to a different type of learning which we have forgotten. I think we have to go back to that. Community, learning from the learning by doing, I think that's what we need to get at. So I don't think there is a real effort to, and now, of course, you see, the thing is this, I mean, knowledge is, information is at our fingertips now.
Right.
You see, that's what he said, knowledge is not, facts we can search, no? Why katapadam karande? But you see, you can say, take this knowledge, or I'll give you a problem, you go look, because you all have got access to technology,
Right.
go look for answers and come back, let's talk about that. So I don't understand why there's tremendous growth in technology, where information is available, they're still focusing on information. Rather than let's use information and give a series of problems for children, and through that they will learn physics and science and environment and chemistry and all of that.
Right. So you would propose
Yes.
that information is readily available.
Yes.
So why make sure that the students and the youth community learn information rather than infer wisdom and knowledge from it? It's the same in computer science, right? If I'm correct, you take data, but data on its own is useless.
Yes.
But when you arrange data
Yes.
and when you take a real good look at it and when you sort it in a manner that makes sense in the real world, you gain information from it.
Yes.
So your system, the system that we are having a conversation about, is quite similar to that, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it's about using information not for the sake of information. You see?
Right.
In fact, I'll go a little beyond that. I'll say now Einstein also said, imagination is more important than knowledge.
Right.
Because knowledge is limited, no? Imagination opens your mind out to all kinds of possibilities. Now, take science, look at the way they teach science, physics, chemistry, botany. Now, suppose you take a problem of environment and say, let's look at all the sciences involved in clean water. Then you learn all kinds of things. No? You understand what I'm saying? So even the way we teach science is wrong. You study physics for the sake of studying physics, but you don't see the interaction between the sciences in relation to a problem. So my point, is you're asking people to be imaginative, use the knowledge and data that you know to solve problems.
Right.
That's where we are. So knowledge is knowledge, problems are, I don't know how to apply. Now I'll give you an example. Now we had a thing called algorithms at Enable. We were doing predictive analytics. Now we needed students with statistics.
Right.
knowledge of statistics. So we had 3 batch top students from university applied for a job. We didn't hire a single one of them. Why? They know, theoretically they know. For example, if you tell them, use a particular regression, they will use it. Superbly they'll use it. But they can't look at a problem and say, I must apply regression to solve this problem. That's the point I'm making.
Right. All right. So you're saying that the current output or the current crop of students that we have in Sri Lanka and in general across the world know how to perform tasks to perfection, but they need instructions.
That's correct.
They can't make inferences and
That's
think
right. I think you captured it beautifully.
Right.
වැඩක් දුන්නොත් ඌ කරනවා. මේක පාවිච්චි කරලා කරන්න. But there's a problem. How do your mind is not trained to crack problems. What do I use to solve this problem? That's where we are lacking.
However, I'm going to play devil's advocate here
of course,
for a bit.
push back, yes.
Because while it's quite easy for the two of us to have a conversation within the abode of the living room, it's quite easy for anyone, say, to have a discussion such as this. But we are talking about students who are almost a tool for their whole family to get out of a socio-economic rut.
Yes.
Sometimes a student might think, well, wisdom and knowledge and artisanal thinking, all of this is all well and good, but it won't bring me home the paycheck. Because there is a sizable proportion of Sri Lankan students that are engaging in the educational system to make sure that their families have a living, that they have 3 meals a day, that they can save, that their future children will be able to enjoy luxuries and comforts that they themselves could not. Is that way of thinking justified?
Now, why do you think that getting a paycheck and what we are discussing are mutually independent? Why wouldn't this kind of knowledge that you have, it might give you a bigger paycheck, if the paycheck is what you're looking at? See, I know what you're trying to say. What you're trying to say is, no, there is a path of economic freedom for them. That is, puta, O-level hundata karanda, Vishwavidyalata yanda. If you get a degree, you get a government job. I understand that.
Precisely.
I understand that. I am not for a moment advocating don't, but I'm saying while you do that, if you create this kind of, curiosity about the subject you are learning, the chances are that you will do better.
Right.
Because you see now, when we hire people, Arvind, we don't hire people by looking at the certificate, no. Api certificate එක ගේන්න කියන්නේත් නැහැ. Sometimes feel sorry, some of them bring a file. I don't even look at it. I always have the last interview. I ask them, what did you do in school? Now, supposing you come, all 5 of you come for an interview at Enable when I was there, I would have hired all 5 of you. Because I මොන මොනවද කරේ? නෑ මට A level හරි A level බොහොම හොඳයි. ඒකත් හොඳයි. වෙන මොනවාරි කරාද? We did interviews, we shot up, we set up, I say, tell me more about it. What did you learn from it? Then you're learning about light. You're learning physics. Now, if you're curious, you learn the physics behind the lighting, the physics, electronics on sound, electronics in the camera. Right. That's how you learn. So you go back now. You're doing science.
Well,
from this 5 years.
From this crew, I think 2 of them are doing science.
So now you can read up all about optics.
Right.
You think? So you become a superb lighting. Now we put that light on, we threw a light. Now we learn about that, how light is thrown, intensity, brightness. Oh, come on, shooting.
Right.
Recording. Waves and this and quality and so much on sound. There's a context then.
Right.
So, to your point, if you go beyond, you have a better chance of making it in life, no?
Right. All right. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Of getting
before.
pivotal positions. See, the one is you can get a job, sure. But nowadays, in the future, jobs are going to be looking at people who are very important, pivotal talent to the organization.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll hire you. If there's COVID, they'll fire you. But if you're a pivotal talent, if you're key to the success of the company, they can't just throw you out. And even you don't have to wait till they throw you out. You can say, bye-bye, I'm going.
Right.
I'm going to look for another job because I don't like you as a manager. You're an oppressive fellow. You're micromanaging me. That's what I did.
Right.
I was never afraid. I owe banking, I lose my salary. What the hell? I was sure I will get a better job because I am going with skills and
Right.
which is beyond what I've learned in school.
Now,
Does that make sense?
it does actually, because I hadn't thought of it that way before. I thought, well, all of this is well and good, but eventually when the schools open, I'll be back to sitting on my table, poring over my notes and making sure I don't stumble over a single step of the journey that was laid before me.
Yeah.
But now, when we are discussing these points, I do feel like our viewers at home might be thinking, wait, hold on. This new business of creative thinking and analysis and making sure you have a good head on your shoulders might give you more economic agency and agency over your life than the usual path that is laid out before you. However, I do want to explore on the concept of social responsibility. Now, is it the responsibility of the younger generation, the upcoming generation, to be creative like that? Is it our responsibility? Do we have a moral obligation to think for ourselves?
Well, if you're thinking of your life, what do I want to make of my life? That's all you can ask yourself now. So it's up to you. I can't give a prescription. Everyone doesn't have to follow the same path that I followed. But I'm saying, end of the day, you want to know, for example, now I'll give you an example of St. Benedict's College, right? Purpose. We have a purpose in our school, which we're just creating. The purpose, which is the why we exist. We are getting up our administration and school to rethink. Now, the purpose of St. Benedict's College is give hope and opportunity to people to lead lives with dignity and freedom.
Right.
4 things. We want to give our children hope and opportunity. Both, not just hope without opportunity. To lead what lives? Not lead lives of material success. Be a managing director, CEO, economy. Dignity and freedom.
Right.
What is life worth having if you don't have dignity and freedom? You're a slave to someone. You go to work, you're somebody's fellow to get pushed around.
Right.
And were looked down upon. You can be a street worker. Look at the people who came to collect garbage during COVID. I mean, if it can give them some dignity in their work, proper attire,
Right.
equipment, masks, and so that there's dignity in that work, not treat them the way we do. So my point is, so your life, if you want to lead a life of dignity and freedom, then you'll have to figure out what is important for you.
Right.
Whether these qualities are important. Not to get a job. That's a different matter. You can get a job. But what's your life worth?
That is.
So your question.
Yes.
Do you have an obligation? No, you don't have a moral obligation. But it's up to you to decide what kind of life do I want to lead. It's as simple as that.
That is eerily similar to the situation that our nation finds itself in, because we are all Sri Lankans and we are proud, patriotic Sri Lankans who want to see our country succeed. Now, as a boy, I've always heard the fact that South Koreans and Singaporeans used to look up at us and used to treat Sri Lanka as a source of inspiration. And that was during a time when Sri Lanka was really innovative and pushed the boundaries of what was possible, and when we thought for ourselves as a people. However, fast forward to 2021, South Korea is one of the most developed nations on earth. Singapore is a hub of Asian business and commerce. The people are free. They lead lives of dignity and freedom. Do you think that if we train our younger generation, people my age, people younger than me, to think for themselves, to think freely, to infer knowledge and to gain wisdom, do you think that we as a nation might move forward when we have been striving to move forward for so long?
Well, broadly speaking, yes. But there are other factors also. See now, the system, Now, you said you're a Sri Lankan. I never think of myself as Sri Lankan. I think of myself as a human being first.
Right.
I never think of country and this nationalism and all that. That's not for me. I think of myself first as a human being.
Right.
Then, where I am in the social, we're in the working class movement, human beings first, then we think of ourselves as members of the working class, working people. Because today there are the working people and the people who own the means of capital. Now, to your point, the world is not suffering only because there are lack of people. Yes, there is a lack of awareness to strike back at injustice and inequality. But there is a system that perpetuates injustice and inequality, which is the current economic capitalist system that we have.
Right.
Which puts profits above people.
Right.
And that has filtered to an extent where there is massive corruption now, Arvind.
Right.
So the country is suffering, one, because people are not striving to, create new, to innovate, yes. And to be aware that they are facing an oppressive system and to fight against it. But the fact is, there is also a system that we are all, schools and all, we are taught, our economics and all is taught to perpetuate this system. And in fact, asking us to be part of this.
Right.
Not to fight against it. So I would say the problem of society in Sri Lanka today also, two things. One is a lack of leadership. And second, a lack of consciousness in the minds of people to come together to address the larger issues.
This discussion has been very enlightening for me. And I'm sure to our viewers at home who are of a similar age bracket to me, because this has opened my eyes to a completely different way of thinking, where it's not just changing ourselves, it's making change or enforcing change to a system that perpetuates this cycle of buckling down and conforming. And I think that's an important discussion to be had, because we as a student committee, of course, we can't enact that kind of massive change to such a broad and wide-spanning system. And I don't think it's our place to really rebel against the system. Instead, how do we go about as students to enact change that will help us and help the people who will come after us?
Yes, that's a good point, and I think we can probably end on that note. You see, now you said your Royal TV, what did you say? It's a force for good. Now you could have said a force for material wealth. You said force for good. So that's a great starting point, Arvind. You can't, you see, even in the world, in our natural order, there are molecular changes. I think Trotsky, the revolutionary, spoke about that. Molecular changes that suddenly create a big change. What you are working on is molecular change. Do your bit.
Right.
Do your bit. What you are doing today is doing your bit to contribute with other people, myself included, sharing this, getting people to think for themselves. That in itself is a start. Can I be indifferent to the larger problems that we face in this country? For example, now, I'll give a concrete example and I'll stop with that. To your point about whether young people can be socially conscious now. We have a kidney disease problem in this country.
Right.
About 5 or 6 years ago, the country needed 1,000 dialysis machines, because when you have kidney problems, your kidney fail, you have to go for dialysis.
Right.
A lot of our farmers in the North Central province and all were affected. Large number of farmers, thousands of deaths, unknown. Chronic kidney disease of unknown origin, CKDU. Now, we needed 1,000 dialysis machines because a dialysis can cost up to 8,000 rupees a single dialysis. Sometimes you do 3. Country needed 1,000 dialysis machines. I did some calculation and I found we needed 2 billion to buy 1,000 dialysis machines. Right. What did we do instead? We built a cricket stadium in Suryabad.
Right.
4 billion rupees. Not a single cricket match is hardly played there. The cricket match is hardly played there. Now, is it okay for you to be indifferent to this?
Not at all.
You can say, I don't have a kidney problem, and none of my parents, family, nobody, what should I care? Now, if you care about something like that, if you care about fertilizer, pick any one of the many issues are child abuse, organic, the destruction of our environment, elephant crisis, poverty, inequality, take anything. Can you give something of your life to address one of those problems? That's what you have to start thinking. What can I give my mind to so that the broader issues facing? Now look at that Greta Thunberg. She was 13 years old when she sat in front of the Swedish parliament every day in winter. I am going to fight against climate change. I cannot leave it to my older generation. We have to take charge. Climate change you can be interested in. So only then, Arvind, if you have a few seconds left in life, your own life, what will you think of? Not of this interview and my life and the cars and all that, well and good. But if you can tell, you know what? I addressed at least one of the many inequalities with the talent I had. Then you can say, you know what? My life was well lived and my life was worth it.
That is definitely one way to end our interview, which has been so in-depth and so honest. And we really do appreciate you spilling out your thoughts to us at this hour. If we were to end at this note, would you have anything to say to our viewers at home who might be looking at you as a source for inspiration to turn their life around and do their part, as you said? Would you have any words for them?
So that's what I just spoke about. I mean, be socially conscious. That's all I can say, because our material wealth means nothing. It's all impermanent. It comes, it goes, and this is a Buddhist country, and material wealth is not our essence of our society. Enriched by this wonderful philosophy, Buddhism, which is today practiced as rituals. It has nothing to do with that. It's got to do with making yourself a better person, less craving, less ignorance, less suffering, and be a little, firstly, try to be a better person. Don't try to change society. If you can be a slightly better person than you were yesterday, that's a great start, Arvind. So I think just always see, can I be a better person? A better person. In what sense? In sense of, don't be unjust, don't be cruel, don't be vicious, don't be nasty. Be kind, be loving, be generous. Give of what you have. Don't expect anything in return. And then maybe you'll have a better life for you and you'll create a better society around you.
What a wonderful note to end on. Thank you, Mr. Peter de Almeida, and thank you for inviting us into your home, and thank you for having us. This has truly been wonderful. Your words were inspiring, and let me take this opportunity to speak a bit about what we talked about. Now, we came here with the express intent of taking an interview, making sure our production quotas were fulfilled. But I think we as a crew learned a lot about our way of life and our way of thinking. And I think we as students are capable of enacting that change within ourselves and within our student community, and making sure that when we are responsible for society and when we are at an age where we can pass on the torch to the younger generation, we can leave behind a world, as you said, that we can be proud of. At least we have taken another step in the right direction. It may be small, yes, but it is a step in the right direction.
Thank you very much for having me, and I must commend you and your team, because I didn't expect this. In fact, I took a photograph and sent it to an old royalist from the Royal Club, Royal Union, and said I was very impressed, because you see, when we were in the A-levels, we didn't do anything like this. We never went and interviewed people. We didn't have the technology, nor did we have that practice. So I think that the five of you, the way you came, the way you've pursued me, and the way you all organized yourself, and the equipment that you brought, the attention to detail, you all took an hour to set it up. So that means attention to detail, getting it right, quality work. So I think you all are all on the right track. I commend you and Royal College for producing such wonderful people like you. Make the most of your life, and this is a great start. Good luck and all the very best, man. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for helping us make TV Royal 21 a force for good. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. We hope to catch you on the next episode of TV Royal, and we hope to bring you more content just like this. This has been a sit down with the esteemed Mr. Peter de Almeida. Thank you, sir. It's truly been an honor to share this time with you, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.